Okay, so I already tried to do this presentation one time and it really didn't work out the way that it should have, unfortunately. So I decided to try it in kind of a different way, something that might work a little better for me. Um, so you can kind of see how my presentation should have been. Um, so my article is called Youth Push for Louder Conversation About Suicide. And it was kind of a big deal article. It was published in 12 different publications internationally, so it was really kind of out there. Um, Basically, the article talks about how it has become kind of necessary to talk to your children and really everybody about suicide. Um, and early on, it quotes a 14-year-old girl named Brittany Langstaff in saying that having to talk about suicide with your kids is almost as important as having to talk about sex with them, and I think that that's pretty that's a pretty big statement, I think. And it was kind of sad that comes from a 14-year-old girl, but that's kind of what it's come down to. Statistically, suicide is now the third leading cause of death for 10 to 14-year-olds, whereas it used to just be something that affected the elderly or the terminally ill. The other main point of the article is that there are a lot of organizations and just individual people everywhere that are starting to talk and try and destigmatize the subject of suicide and make it a more commonplace conversation. Among those people are 21-year-old student Bryce Mackey, who made a documentary called Eternal High, which is now available for educational programs in schools and stuff like that. And that was about his own personal struggle with bipolar disorder and suicidal thoughts. Also, there was the Alive campaign in Waco, Texas, and that was on the news a little bit last year, and they're also making a documentary about that right now. There's a group of students from Waco, Texas that they raised some money and they rode bikes from Waco all the way to Anchorage, Alaska. And it was kind of like a benefit for one of their friends that had attempted suicide, and it was kind of to show him that he had things to live for. And basically it was because he was still feeling very bad and like he didn't have anything left for him in life, and he had no intentions of pursuing getting help or anything like that. So, and then there was the organization that actually led me to the article, and that's a Florida-based nonprofit called To Write Love on Our Arms. And I'm personally a big supporter of them. I've been with them since the very beginning, since they were just some little thing. I didn't expect it to be a big deal or anything like that, and now it has a following of about 350,000 people. So, anyway, they raise money through merchandise sales and through a lot of band support and stuff like that. They were on Warped Tour for the past 2 years and things like that. They're currently helping to pay bills to help Hopeline, which is 1-800-SUICIDE, to keep them from going under. They work closely with Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous and the National Eating Disorders Association, and they're also helping to put a lot of people through treatment that can't afford it or wouldn't pursue treatment for themselves. And that's really important. I think that's kind of a big deal. Suicide itself is a social problem because simply it's a norm violation And we see suicidal people obviously as deviants, and as a normal person, we're expected to be able to cope with our problems, and suicide is a socially unacceptable means of escaping those problems. And media are claims makers are telling us that it is a problem, but at the same time they're forbidding us to discuss it, or to attempt to find a solution, because it's a hard thing to talk about, and I think it just begs too many questions, and there's a lot of pain behind that, and it's just, people see that as morbid or whatever. The article refers to it as a tricky subject, and especially in the media, there's actually a set of media guidelines for featuring suicides in newspapers and things like that, and even in obituaries, most of the time suicides are not listed as a cause of death, and that's kind of wrong, I think. But basically the main point is how there are so many young people that are beginning to take matters into their own hands, and they're becoming the powerful people. They're becoming their own claims makers, and they're talking about these things, and they're getting the issue out there, and I think that that's a really important first step in finding a solution for how this problem has really permeated our society. And that is my presentation, and I hope you liked it, I guess.